Welcome to the McAllister Report. We join John McAllister, top football evaluator, as he shares wisdom and interviews coaches and athletes from around the country. Enjoy today's podcast.
This is the John McAllister Report, and I'm John McAllister. For years, I've been going to what they call college football recruiting nights, and they're held throughout the state. And what it is college coaches, Division II and Division III coaches, have a chance to meet with the head coaches from all the schools in that area. Like Cleveland, under the guidance of Chuck Kyle, has a huge college recruiting night next Wednesday. They have one in the fall and they have one in the spring. Just about, Northeast Ohio does it in the Akron area. Canton, Stark County does it in that area. And then Columbus, Central Ohio does it. Southwest Ohio does it. Nothing in Toledo right now, or Northwest Ohio. They used to do it once in a while, and they don't do it anymore. But college recruiting nights are about building relationships. And tonight, I wanted to talk to one of the guys over in Northeast Ohio, Jeff Fox at Nordonia High School. And Jeff and four other coaches have organized, reorganized, redone the Akron area coaches, and they're doing a good job. So I wanted to spend some time with Jeff tonight. He's the head coach, I said, at Nordonia High School, and been around for a couple of years, but I wanted to spend some time with him talking about college recruiting nights with guest Jeff Fox. Jeff Fox, I'd like to welcome you to my show, and I'd also like to talk about primarily college recruiting nights. Now, you're an excellent coach, and you've put out some pretty good players, and your program's coming back at Nordonia High School, consistent, and maybe someday talk about that. But let's just talk about college recruiting nights. Okay. Jeff, when you hear college recruiting nights, what do you think of? How do you define it?
It's a big networking event between high school coaches and college coaches. And it's where I first met you. I was an assistant coach at Willoughby South, and there was a Lake County recruiting night early in my career. And then we always went to the St. Ignatius Cleveland recruiting night as well. And I'd bump into scouts like you, college coaches from all over. And I was an assistant coach going with Matt Duffy, our head coach. And it's a networking event where the coaches connect because we care about kids and we want the best opportunities for our players as high school coaches. And the college coaches, they want the best kids available and are trying to reach out and do it. So high school coaches, like the Ignatius is a big one in Cleveland still. So Coach Kyle has ran that for many years. And then there used to be one in Akron. And as Coach Reardon was retiring from Walsh Jesuit, he reached out to a few of us younger coaches and said, hey, who can carry on this tradition? And now there's about 5 of us regional coaches that put on the Greater Akron Recruit Night that's going on next Tuesday. And we just send out a blast email and try to get all the regional coaches, college coaches, to interact with the there's 40 some Greater Akron coaches in our association that our high schools reach out. And we align it. The Greater Canton night is on a Monday. The Greater Akron night is on a Tuesday. The Greater Cleveland night is on a Wednesday. So the college recruiters that are on the road recruiting anyway, after they go to the high schools during the day, they come at night and have a one-stop shop to network with us, find out about our players, and it's all about creating great opportunities for kids is all we're about.
I've been doing this a couple of years, and I've done it for gone to these things for a long time. And they're getting, I think Akron is coming back up. So, I think it was a little law there, maybe, a few years ago. You guys have done a really good job. Now, I would tell you, I use the word relationships, and that's what it's all about, high school coaches and college coaches. And when it started years ago, or when I started going, with Division I schools were allowed to be there, college coaches. And then they came out with an NCAA rule that they couldn't be there anymore. So now it's just Division II and Division III. Now, my problem was, for some places, I think coaches, probably high school coaches, wanted to see the Division I coaches and maybe rub elbows, and I don't know how many players they had. And I was concerned when it happened, because I think initially it started Division II and Division III coaches, and I don't think high school coaches, I think they were just okay with it. But now, if you really realize, Division II and Division III coaches, college coaches, that's where kids should be going for most of them. They very, very few kids get Division I scholarships anymore, 115 or whatever, 120. So I think it's really huge for you guys. Tell me a little bit of just what information that you provide. Not you specific. What information do the high school coaches provide? That's better.
Who our kids are. The number one question always is academics. Because you just mentioned it. The biggest thing as a new parent coming into high school, worried about creating the best opportunity for their kid, what they're exposed to is the football that's on TV. So everyone has really only been familiar. It's a rare family that is familiar with the small college football. Well, most of us high school football coaches played small college football, and it was a transformational 4 years of our life. It's what impacted us as men. We believe it's why we do what we do as high school coaches, and we know that college coaches want what's best for our kids too, the ones that are in it for the right reasons. So we create relationships with the college coaches over years, and we say, here's our kids, here's their academic information, and we can give you insight to if it's a fit or not. I laughed before we started recruiting. You said briefly, well, Coach Fox, you're not old school, and I you say that, but I am getting to the point now where I've been a head football coach for a decade, and I have seen it. And now I have relationships with a handful of college coaches where some schools are like, hey, what's their major going to be? Do they fit this school academically? And I'm over bragging about the kids at Nordonia that have done something on signing day. I want to brag about the kids that have graduated 4 years later, that have stayed at that school, that haven't transferred. So having the insight and the relationship where certain college coaches can say what kids want to play college football, who can fit academically. And sometimes that means, hey, I have a kid with a 2.5 GPA. There's only a handful of schools they can get into academically and could be a fit financially. Some of my kids do have the grades. We've sent kids to all levels of college football, where the high academic to Division II, to Division III, to NAIA, where those are the kids that I know it's the right fit and we're doing what's best for kids. So we provide mostly the academic and the contact information. Sometimes I joke I'm just the kid secretary, that I'm the go-between. But at these recruit nights, you're developing relationships and you're giving all the information so your kids can get recruited by the appropriate schools, even if it is in Ohio State, because we've had one kid go to Ohio State, but 99% and more of our kids don't have a chance to go to Ohio State, and that was decided at conception. So we're still going to do what's best to give them the best fit for them to be successful and help use football to further their education.
Well, I think too, you didn't mention it, but a lot of guys have providing the highlight videos for them. I mean, the where they can get them, and even they'll show them that night sometimes. I mean, the players and stuff. And I think what we're going to realize too, and I have it in my notes here, Division II football is pretty good. Now, Mount Union's not Division II; they're Division III, but they're pretty good.
Yeah.
John Carroll's getting closer. Some of these other schools, but that's pretty good football.
Yeah, and you're talking to a Baldwin Wallace grad, so I'm going to fight for that whole OAC. And the top end of Division III is great football that our all Ohio football players will go to those schools and be competing like crazy for playing time. It's not an easy task once you get there. So.
I think once you get by the first maybe 20 or 25, and then kids, it tapers, but still, those 25 are good football players, and then kids develop. And I think the other thing, hopefully it's going to slow down a little bit with a couple new rules, but the transfer portal, kids are getting their bubbles bursted because this silly early offers and things which don't mean anything. Kids think they do, but they don't. And with this transfer portal, it's tough. And I think guys like you and Columbus, all these coaches around with these college nights, it's important now. It's important. And plus, if you want you guys have access to, like, if you do have a Division I guy, you tell him, or if you have a couple of sophomores, like this year to be the 25 class and 24 classes, I think you make that available too. But I really think Division II and Division III, that's what it's all about. And
you're exactly. Go ahead.
I have another question for you. When do you meet then, roughly? So parents could be thinking about it anyway. No, they can't. Parents can't go, but they can be aware of it and they can talk to you about it, and you can, or coaches. I mean, parents aren't, and division and seniors aren't allowed to go either. Players, no players, they could get in trouble for that. But,
correct. Yeah, usually the process works where we're about to have this the first Tuesday of December.
Right.
And the biggest narrative I have to tell my parents from the beginning is that, contrary to what social media tells you, the recruiting process happens way later in high school. And like you said, there's factors even in the last couple of years with transfer portal or whatever that has slowed it even more, where the Division II schools, where there might be athletic scholarship money on the line, still isn't being passed out or offered, quote unquote, which I don't know if we're going to talk about the definition of what an offer is or not, and how that's changed. But the process doesn't happen. Like, I'm not lying to you. Hey, Logan Villamagna, our all Ohio linebacker right now, that is getting recruited by Division II schools, said to me, "Hey, I don't have any offers." I'm like, well, Division II schools just got done with their season. Most of them wait to find out what kids are still available and go through a full evaluation process. And the good traditional ones aren't going to just throw the word offer at you. They're going to give you a financial package that will include your – so it's going through the college financial process. So my biggest narrative to my parents is slow down. Please trust this process. The process is different for every kid. What typically happens is at the recruit night, we see all 75 of the schools in the region surrounding Ohio that come to nights like this. And then the ones that are interested in our kids come back to our school during the day, and we'll meet your son in person.
Right.
And then start contacting the family. So that's usually the process I have to communicate to the parents, because they think that you should have had an offer your sophomore year or you can't play.
I know. And I blame the colleges for that. Half those offers, and we're not going to really talk about offers too much, but they just because the other schools do.
Yeah.
If one MAC school in Ohio offers a player, I can almost guarantee you that he'll get an offer from another MAC school within a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because they got to keep up.
Yeah.
So, okay, what's the cost? I mean, what is it? What's the money, the cost for one of these college nights?
Well, none of us are financially incentivized. We charge the colleges themselves to come to the night, and basically that puts on the event. So we can put some food and refreshments out, but that's all we charge. Nothing is charged to any, because the college coaches want to find them. No recruiting service should be charging kids in football in Ohio that's so highly recruited. People should never have to pay out of pocket for any of these recruiting things. There's people like yourself and a couple other services that are never charging kids. And then there's all us high school coaches working directly, and the college coaches pay to hold the event, and they're grateful to have the opportunity to meet so many of us and get direct access to which players are available and want to play college football.
And they'll be around. They'll be around during the day at your school to visit and things like that. And the other thing is, we're talking about Division II and Division III here, but I mean, now this sounds silly, what we've been talking about, but pro scouts come through all these Division II schools and many Division III schools. So it's not like if you go to a High Northern and you do really, really well and mature and develop, pro scouts are coming through those places. You know, I mean, so if you're good enough, they're going to find you.
Yeah. I'm the coach at Nordonia High School, where Jason Trusnick came from here in the early 2000s.
That's true.
I played against him. I was at BW. He was at Ohio Northern. And then he lasted a dozen years in the NFL. And one of the guys we're most proud of is an alumnus of Nordonia. And he's an example of it. Now, you got to develop, you got to grow. But if you're good enough, they'll find you.
Exactly.
You just got to go and play and do your best.
Okay. How much time do you roughly spend with each coach at one of these? I know it varies, obviously, but how much time?
Formally, we'll spend a minute or two with each coach. Myself and an assistant coach will usually man our table. What we do is the high schools set up at tables, and we rent out a party room at a local hotel, and the tables will be set up surrounding the big room, and the high school will be seated, and the colleges will come around one at a time. And we'll spend a minute or two talking about our kids, answering their questions, and then we also set out food and refreshments so that afterwards, informally, you may have more extended time to develop relationships with these coaches as well. But at least a minute or two with each coach that comes to the night. And then, like you said, a lot of them also follow through and come into the school during the day as well. So during my lunch period or before school or after school, they'll come through and spend a half hour at school with us as well, developing that relationship as well.
Okay. And then maybe we said it and I missed it. I forgot. But don't you hand out handouts with their picture on it and a lot of regular personal information like address and phone numbers and grades. And sometimes guys will put their transcripts on there sometimes. And all those kind of, I don't think recommendations mean anything, but they'll have a recommendation from the coach, and you hand out booklets or sheets. And I think that's huge. And I know you guys do that. I think every college night does that. And
yeah, that's pretty typical that we will
Right.
prepare a handout for our players.
Right.
That's something in hand that they walk away with all the contact information and academic information as much as anything. It's changed early in my career. Like my career spans where we were doing DVDs and copying DVDs for the highlight films right at the beginning of my career. Now everything's online. So what you mentioned in another question about highlight films, because everything's so accessible just on the internet now, we don't have to give them. Once they have their name, they can find everything's accessible. Shoot, most of the colleges have access to Huddle on the back end where they can get full games. So we couldn't hide anything or doctor up a thing, but we do need an attention-getting highlight film available on the internet, and then we hand them their name, contact information, academic information at minimum that night.
Jeff, I think I'm going to get back with you sometime because there are spin-offs on this, but you talked about highlight videos, and I think they're huge. They whet your appetite, but they should be pretty good. But a lot of times kids, and I put on Twitter all the time, now realize college coaches look at full games. So, a highlight's good, but you better be playing well in full games. You know what I'm saying? And in college, and Division II and Division III, the same thing. Look at those. And we've kind of overlooked one. I did a video podcast with Coach Phillips down at YSU, and it's a tremendous program. But, they're looked as a little sister to the MAC or something like that, and they shouldn't be. No. They play in a really tough conference down there. But, okay, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time because I think it's important. I think it's important for high schools, and I'll probably get in trouble from this. I live over in Upper Sandusky, Northwest Ohio, which really, really needs one of these, because most of their players are Division II and Division III, and good ones. They don't do any college night. And they tried it, but nobody will take the bull by the horns. So guys like you over in Northeast Ohio, I applaud you. Okay. I applaud you guys. And I thank you for being on my show tonight. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Coach. Thanks for
what are your last words? Well, I'll give you the last words. Piece of advice. Coach, we're leaving the locker room at halftime. Now, what are you going to tell those guys?
Well, leaving the locker room for halftime, we'll say finish on 3.
What are you going to tell them right now about college nights?
About college night, but you said it. You and I agree. We're not trying to profit off of anything. We want what's best for each of the kids we coach. You're a guy still trying to connect kids and create opportunities for young men. And that's what the college night is about, especially nowadays with so much out there that confuses parents. I'm grateful you're spreading the news that us high school coaches are still working for kids. And a lot of us are working together to help do what's best for the young men and help them. That's why we coach football. That's because it's a platform to develop young men as the leaders of our society. So college night's just one more thing we do to make sure they can continue that and pass them on to the college coaches to continue to develop.
Thanks, Coach. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Coach.